Hey everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of Legends and Loggers. That's right, we're still going somehow. My name is Zac Wohlstein, and I am an outdoor television producer, and I'm joined here by my co-host and brother.
Hey y'all, I'm Parker Wohlstein. I'm a forester and a wildlife biologist. Today on Legends and Loggers, we're going to be going in a little bit different direction from just cryptids because we're going to delve into some really weird and really fun Cherokee folklore surrounding ginormous horned serpents, which will be pretty fun. But before we get into snakes that are as thick as trees with giant crystals in their heads,
Whoa.
Zach, what are you drinking?
Well, okay, I couldn't find anything on theme for this one, so I just went with something local. I got a Shinerbach. It's a Texas beer.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
I was looking for something with a snake on it, but
Me too.
couldn't find it. But then I found this one from Parish Brewing. I think they're out of Shreveport, Louisiana.
Nice.
In Broussard, which I think is around Shreveport maybe. But it's called Canebrake. And the reason I did that is canebrake is another term for timber rattlesnake.
Well, there you go.
Timber rattlesnakes are also called canebrake rattlesnakes, which
Still
rattlesnakes are a big thing in some of these legends. And this horned serpent is also venomous like a rattlesnake, and pretty much the only rattlesnake that's in Cherokee territory is the canebrake or timber rattlesnake. So,
Well, that seems pretty on brand then, folks. Well
yeah,
done.
we'll take it. All right.
All right.
Crack.
Oh, and shout out to Emily for letting me borrow borrow her Batman bottle opener.
Shout out to my wife for letting me borrow her Custer State Park. All right.
Oh, hi.
Trying to do this without spilling on
I
myself.
got the giant one.
Huh.
That's the size of my head, dude.
All right. First taste.
All right.
Huh. That is not what I was expecting.
In a good way, or?
Yeah, it's like a light beer, but it's like kind of sweet.
Oh,
Huh.
wow. Okay.
It's like really, really weedy, but kind of sweet there at the end. Huh.
Dude, this is so big. It's like distracting me. It's huge.
Yeah, now
It's like the size of a wine bottle.
now that you're actually holding it in your hand, it looks pretty silly.
Mhm.
I like it.
There's not really too much to say about Shiner. It's like in Texas, it's almost as big as like Lone Star. It's pretty big now. That's great. I highly recommend it.
I've never heard of Lone Star.
If you're in Texas, you heard of Lone Star. All right. All right.
Man, this stuff is good.
Nice.
So, most of the information for all this legend stuff comes from Myths of the Cherokee by James Mooney, written in 1902. And just a forewarning, there ain't a pronunciation guide I could find for a lot of these Cherokee
All
words,
right.
which there's a lot of Cherokee words. So forgive me. I'm probably just going to pronounce them exactly like how they look like they're spelled in the English, just for ease of going through it. I'm not going to be one of those guys that like does a fake accent to try and. Is there an accent for Cherokee people? I don't know. So I'm just going to.
If there is, it's real stereotypical. Let's not.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to go there.
Oh, let's not try that.
So I'm just going to say it in good old English standard here. Anyway, this book is an extract from the 19th annual report of the Bureau of American Ethnology. So pretty like actually scientific
Wow.
thing. Mooney was like a researcher and stayed with them. Mooney collected a ton of stories and folklore from the Cherokee between 1887 and 1890. I believe he like stayed with them for that whole duration and then put it all into this book. And let me tell you, some of them are doozies.
Nice. So this is like one guy's first-hand account then?
Yeah, it was basically like he stayed with the tribe for 3 years and just like listening to the elders talk, or like he would write down like what he'd hear parents say to their kids as like bedtime stories or whatever. around the
Yeah.
campfire.
Okay.
He just kind of cataloged all these, and some of them have like multiple versions, and he kind of like outlines that in the book. And it's totally free on Gutenberg, so go check it out if you like any of these. It's pretty fun to read. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. So I'm super excited to tell all y'all these legends. This episode is definitely going to have more of a campfire story kind of feel to it, which I personally love. We're going to have a lot of craziness, hopefully a lot of laughs and a lot of fun in this episode. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and let's dive into some giant snake lore. Long ago, when the sun became angry at the people on Earth and sent a sickness to destroy them, the little men changed a man into a monster snake, which they called Uktena, and sent him to kill her, the sun. Which, why is the sun angry? Dude, I'm telling you, first sentence, here we go. The sun's angry, the little people need to change a guy into a snake so he can kill the sun. Obviously.
First sentence is the guy, snake, go kill the sun. Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah. Also, I had an encounter with the little people slightly when I was in East Tennessee. We'll talk about that someday. It gives me chills. I don't want to talk about it.
You met children? Is that what you're saying?
No. I heard voices. Anyway, it's bad. We'll talk about it. So the Uktena was also called the keen-eyed. He failed to do the work, obviously, hard to kill the sun, and then the rattlesnake had to be sent instead. Which, if a giant monster snake couldn't do it, well, the rattlesnake will do it. Which made the Uktena very angry and very jealous, so that the people were afraid of him, and he was taken up to Galalati to stay with the other dangerous things. He left others behind him, though, nearly as large and as dangerous as himself, aka there's other Uktena.
Giant snakes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they hide now in deep pools in the river and lonely passes in the high mountains, the places which the Cherokee call where the Uktena stays. Very on the nose place name. So basically, the Uktena is a great snake, as large around as a tree trunk, with horns on its head, and a bright blazing crest like a diamond in the center of its forehead, and scales glittering like sparks of fire. It has rings or spots of color along its whole length, and it cannot be wounded except by shooting the seventh spot from the head, because under that spot is its heart and its life. The blazing diamond is called... Here we go.
I was about to say, wow.
Yulun Suti, or transparent. And
for the listeners, that word has a different, like, it has a U every other letter.
And a whole bunch of accent marks I've never seen in my life.
I had never seen that one either.
So it's also called transparent. And he who can win it may become the greatest wonder worker of the tribe, but it is worth a man's life to attempt it, for whoever is seen by the Uktena is so dazed by the bright light that he runs towards the snake instead of trying to escape.
What?
Even to see the Uktena sleep is death, not to the hunter himself, but to his family. So apparently it's so freaky if...
you run towards it?
Yeah, you run towards it because you like the diamond so much. But even if you see it and it's like sleeping and doesn't want to kill you, you don't die, but your family just like instant death.
What? That's crazy.
Do
you think maybe people would be like running towards it because they said like the scales look like, well, it has like diamond type scales and stuff on its head.
Yeah,
but it's also
got the diamond on the forehead,
trunk.
And then all the scales are like shimmering.
Yeah. So do you think like they just see almost what looks like a rock wall that has like diamonds in it, and they're like, oh, whoa, diamonds?
Maybe. That's a good point. And again, I mean, depends on how big of a tree, but Appalachia didn't really have, redwoods.
Oh, that's true.
So,
that's true. In my head, it's like a huge, giant, like oak tree type deal.
It'd probably be like a decent, like, let's say.
Well, yeah. So that's what I had in my mind, but hindsight, it could have been like a spruce or something.
Yeah. So back to Mooney here. Of all of the daring warriors who have started out in search of the Ulan Suti, only Agen Unisi ever came back successful. The East Cherokees still keep the one which he brought. It is a large transparent crystal nearly the shape of a cartridge bullet with a red blood streak running through the center from top to bottom. The owner keeps it wrapped in a whole deerskin inside an earthen jar hidden away in a secret cave in the mountains. Every 7 days, he feeds it with the blood of small game, rubbing the blood all over the crystal as soon as the animal has been killed. Twice a year, it must be fed the blood of a deer or some other large animal. Should he forget to feed it at the proper time, it would come out of its cave at night in the shape of fire and fly through the air to slake its thirst with the lifeblood of the conjurer or one of his people. He may save himself from this danger by telling it, whenever he puts it away, that he will not need it again for a long time. It will go quietly to sleep and feel no hunger until it is brought out to be consulted. Then it must be fed again with blood before it's used.
Well, I like that phrasing of "it must be fed." You know what that reminds me of?
What?
Oh, well, that makes me think of like Hellraiser.
Yeah, the puzzle box.
Yeah.
Except this thing's pretty helpful. We'll get into
That's
that.
true. It's not.
I think this is funny. Next paragraph. No white man must ever see it, and no person but the owner will venture near it for fear of sudden death. Which I think is kind of funny, because whenever you're reading through here, they say that the East Cherokee still have it to this day. They're like, oh, we still have it. And then the guy goes, can I see it? And they're like, no white man can ever see it. And he's like, can I see the deerskin it's wrapped in? They're like, no. So these guys definitely don't have this thing. Anyway, so they fear, they don't venture near it due to fear of sudden death. Even the conjurer who keeps it is afraid of it and changes its hiding place every once in a while so that it can't learn its way out. When he dies, it will be buried.
Wait. Are we still talking about the giant tree trunk snake?
No. We're talking about the crystal on its skull.
Just the diamond. So they removed it from its head.
Yeah.
And the diamond is going to know where to go? Or like
and the diamond needs to be fed.
And it's going to try and escape.
Yeah, it escapes to go feed.
Oh my god, that's wild. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
It's weird. When he dies, it will be buried with him. Otherwise, it'll come out of its cave like a blazing star in search for his grave night after night for 7 years, when, if still not able to find him, it will go back to sleep forever where he has placed it.
Well, it sounds like that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Just hide the guy really good.
Yeah.
Whoever owns the Ulun Suti is sure of success in hunting, love, rainmaking, every other business, but its great use is in life prophecy. When it is consulted for this purpose, the future is seen mirrored in the clear crystal as a tree is reflected in the quiet stream below, and the conjurer knows whether the sick man will recover, whether the warrior will return from battle, or whether the youth will live to be old. And that is your general story behind the Uktena, some of the basics of how it came to be, what it looks like, and some of the implications that it has for this tribe.
Now, okay, so one thing I want to go back to right quick. They sent after the Uktena messed up and like couldn't kill the son, what a loser. They sent the rattlesnake. Did the rattlesnake do it? we didn't hear back from him.
He did not. The sun is still out there.
Like somewhere there's like a rattlesnake going through space, a little space helmet on or something. It's just like going slithering its way towards the sun.
Would a rattlesnake's rattle work in the vacuum of space?
You wouldn't hear it because sound can't travel through the vacuum.
And you'd have to wear your spacesuit. Yeah, it starts off well. I'm telling you, we could make the podcast based off this book, and each episode just read a different story. There's so much to talk about here.
Also, I love the line in every other business. like they go about listening to some stuff, and they're like, you know what? Just everything's better.
Yeah, they're like 1,200 AD Cherokee. They're like, with your accounting, with your car wash business.
That's funny.
So luckily for us, there's quite a bit more lore around the Uktena and other snake folklore that we're going to talk about tonight. First off, I mentioned our boy Agan, the first and only person to kill an Uktena, or the Uktena. Well, the following story is about how Chad King Agan did it.
Chad King.
In one of their battles with the Shawano, who were all magicians, obviously, the Cherokee captured the great medicine man, whose name was Agan Utsi, the groundhog's mother. That's a terrible name.
That's his name?
Yeah, that's a terrible Native American name.
Was it a man?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
They had him tied and ready for torture when he begged for his life and engaged, if spared, to find them the great wonder worker, Ulun Suti, which is a crystal. Now the Ulun Suti is like a blazing star set in the forehead of the great Uktena serpent, and the medicine man who could possess it might do marvelous things. But everyone knew this could not be, because it was certain death to meet the Uktena. They warned him of all this, but he only answered that his medicine was strong and that he was not afraid. Chad King Agan!
Yeah!
What a dude. I mean,
he slaps his ibuprofen, he'd be like, this bad boy is strong.
That was probably the most cold line you could have said in way back Cherokee, like, my medicine's strong and I'm not afraid.
No, say with the Cherokee accent.
Nope. Back to the story. The Uktena used to lie in wait in lonely places to surprise its victims, especially the haunted dark passes of the Great Smoky Mountains. Knowing this, the magician went first to a gap in the range of the far northern border of the Cherokee country. He searched and found there was a monster black snake, larger than had ever been known before, but it was not what he was looking for. And he laughed at it as something too small to notice.
What a dick!
Stupid black snake. Coming southward to the next gap, he found there was a great moccasin snake, the largest ever seen. But when the people wondered, he said it was nothing.
This guy's the coolest, dude.
No,
oh
dude.
My God.
In the next gap, he found a green snake and called the people to see it. But when they found an immense green snake coiled up in the path, they ran away in fear. Coming on to Bald Mountain, he found there a great lizard basking, but although it was large and terrible to look at, it was not what he wanted, and he paid no attention to it.
This guy, he's just roasting these poor animals one after the other. I would love to see this guy at a zoo.
He's like, this thing is worthless.
It's like, this panda, nothing.
I could fight it any day.
Yeah.
Going still south to the frog place. Love that there's a frog place. He found a great frog squatting in the gap. But when the people came to see it, they were frightened like the others and ran away from the monster. He mocked at them for being afraid of a frog and went on to the next gap.
This guy is the coolest. Holy crap.
This has nothing to do with the Uktena, but I could not clip this out.
Yeah.
He went on to the gap of the forked antler and to the enchanted lake of Atagahi. And at each he found monstrous reptiles, but he said they were nothing. He thought that the Uktena might be hiding in the deep water at the leech place. Love that there's a leech place.
Yeah,
Actually,
right.
hate that there's a leech place. On Hiawassee, where the other strange things had been seen before. And going there, he dived down under the surface. He saw turtles and water snakes, probably made fun of them, and two immense sun perches rushed at him and retreated again. But that was all. The other places he tried, going always southward, and at last on Guhanti Mountain he found the Uktena asleep.
Oh boy.
Turning without noise, he swiftly ran down the mountainside as far as he could go with one long breath, nearly to the bottom of the slope. There he stopped and piled up a great circle of pine cones, and inside it he dug a deep trench. He then set fire to the cones and came back up the mountain again. The Uktena was still asleep, and putting an arrow in his bow, Chad King Agan sent the arrow through its heart, which was under the 7th spot from the serpent's head. And the great snake raised its head with the diamond front flashing fire and came straight at his enemy. But the magician, turning quickly, ran full speed down the mountain, cleared the circle of fire and the trench at one bound, and laid down on the ground inside.
Wow.
Yeah, Olympian.
I like the idea of him just hightailing it down the mountain.
Yeah, like a
Full
cartoon.
Yeah.
The Uktena tried to follow, but the arrow was through his heart. And in another moment, he rolled over in his death struggle, spitting poison all over the mountainside. But the poison drops could not pass the circle of fire, but only hissed and sputtered in the blaze. And the magician was on the inside, untouched except by one small drop which struck upon his head as he lay close to the ground, but he did not know it. Smart idea. I was like, why is he building a fire? Smart. Get rid of all the poison with just burn it up in the fire.
Because of course the poison.
Yeah, obviously. The blood, too, is as poisonous as the froth, poured from the Uktena's wound and down the slope in a dark stream, but it ran into the trench, leaving him unharmed.
Wow.
The dying monster rolled over and over down the mountain, breaking down large trees in its path till it reached the bottom. Then Agan called every bird in all the woods to come to the feast, and so many came that when they were done, not even the bones were left.
Wow. I like how he called every bird.
Yeah, not even just a couple. There's probably some that are vegetarians. He's like, no, you get down here.
You eat that freaking snake. It's like, but the poison.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you think every bird in the forest died after? Because so they all ate all the poison blood?
Life is about checks and balances.
It's a small price.
You slay a giant.
Kill one snake, but you have to pay with the lives of all the birds.
Yeah, exactly. It's whatever. After 7 days, he went by night to the spot. The body and bones of the snake were gone, all eaten by the birds, but he saw a bright light shining in the darkness. And going over to it, he found, resting on a low-hanging branch where a raven had dropped it, the diamond from the head of the Uktena. He wrapped it up carefully and took it with him. From that time, he became the greatest medicine man in the whole tribe. When Agan came down again to the settlement, the people noticed a small snake hanging from his head, where the single drop of poison from the Uktena had struck. But so long as he lived, he never himself knew it was there.
What?
So, remember when that one drop hit him? It sprouted a snake.
And he never knew it was there? He
never knew about it. And everyone in the village is like, what happened to you? And
so
nobody told
this
him.
thing was like hanging out of his head, and he like turns, snake flaps over his eyes and whatnot. He's like, oh, what was that?
Where the blood of the Uktena had filled the trench, a lake formed afterwards, and the water was black. And in this water, the women used to dye the cane splits for their baskets. Yay! The end.
Okay. I want to go back to this snake coming out of his freaking head thing.
Uh-huh.
He's the greatest medicine man that ever was part of this tribe, but he didn't notice a whole snake. Did he have to feed the snake? Did the snake get fed from him? I have so many questions.
There's no answers, honestly.
Do you think like it's kind of like how you don't see your nose, but it's always there but you don't see it? Do you think like the snake was always in his vision, but like his brain just didn't show him in?
Well, no, because like if you just all of a sudden had something on your face, you'd recognize it that one time.
That's true. Okay, I imagine like what if I don't know what Native Americans eat. What if he's got like a bagel or something, and he's like going to the bagel, and the snake just like
he's like what?
Yeah, he just like the snake snatches it right out of his hand, and he's like, where does my food keep going?
I like the very last part of this story. Is like there was so much blood that it made a lake. Oh yeah, and it was the lake that the women used to dye their.
The lake, the one that the women used to dye stuff with.
Yeah, dye their stuff for their cane splits for their baskets.
Well, that's pretty wholesome.
Yeah. How do you feel about that one in general? There's a reason I call him Chad King.
Yeah, because he's the freaking coolest. I like how he just like brushes off every animal,
Yeah.
and
What a
also
jerk.
the frog place, the leech place. That's the best.
Well, that comes from there's a lot of native tribes that have like they use place names for a lot of stuff. It's like a big part of their culture, and they'll
That makes sense.
tie
That
it
makes
into
sense.
stories and stuff. Which
Yeah,
is why
basically, like wherever what resources in that area would be like that resource place. That makes sense.
or if it's like tied to some popular story. Uh, yeah. So that was him killing the capital U Uktena.
Oh, the original.
Yeah, that's the death of the original
Oh,
one.
wow.
But like I
Man,
said,
first lost to a rattlesnake and then this freaking guy.
yeah, it's some random medicine man that was trying not to die by us,
Yeah.
some rival tribe magicians. But yeah, there's the Uktena, which was the first guy that got transformed. But there are also other Uktena, and from what I've been seeing, they seem to be less powerful than that original one. But
I forgot. The first one was a guy. Yeah.
yeah, he got changed by the little people, which
Wow.
we're gonna
Well-
do an episode on the little people for sure, for sure. So this is the story of the Red Man and the Uktena. I didn't write this. This is 1800s. Two brothers went hunting together. Heyo.
Hey.
And when they came to a good camping place in the mountains, they made a fire. And while one gathered bark to put up a shelter, the other one started up the creek to look for deer. Soon he heard a noise on top of the ridge as if two animals were fighting. He hurried through the bushes to see what it might be, and when he came to the spot, he found a great Uktena coiled around a man and choking him to death. The man was fighting for his life and called out to the hunter, "Help me, nephew. He is your enemy as well as mine." Which I think is hilarious because he's like, if you saw anybody, even like your worst enemy, out there getting strangled by this monster snake, it's like, yeah, it's my enemy. The thing's probably going to come after me next.
Yeah.
I like
I'm the next person in the vicinity.
He's like, help, it's your enemy too, help me.
Well, I especially like the nephew part. Like this guy is literally being killed, and he has the time to formally address who he's talking to, and then ask for help. It's like and give explanation for why he needs help,
Well,
or like why you should help.
don't quote me on this, but I remember from an anthropology class I took that a lot of tribes, I mean, obviously a lot of them are like cousins and stuff.
Well, with the
But-
incest.
Yeah. Appalachia. But I think calling somebody nephew is like a kind of like a respectful way. Like if they're younger than you and like
I
you
see,
know
okay.
them decently, I think it's kind of like a catch-all like that.
Well, that's cool.
Anyway, so this guy's struggling for his life. The hunter took good aim and drawing the arrow to the head, sent it through the body of the Uktena so that the blood spouted from the hole. The snake loosens its coils with a snapping noise and went tumbling down the ridge into the valley, tearing up the earth like a waterspout as it rolled.
I don't know about water spouts. Do they tear up the earth?
Sure, probably.
Okay.
The stranger stood up, and it was Asagya Gigaige, the red man of lightning. He said to the hunter, "You have helped me, and now I will reward you. I will give you a medicine so that you can always find game." They waited until it was dark, and they went down to the ridge to where the dead Uktena had rolled, and by this time the birds and insects had eaten the entire body, and only the bones were left. In one place were flashes of light coming up from the ground, and upon digging here just under the surface, the red man found a scale of the Uktena. Next he went over to a tree that had been struck by lightning and gathered a handful of splinters. He made a fire with them and burned the Uktena scale to a coal. He wrapped this in a piece of deerskin and gave it to the hunter, saying, "As long as you keep this, you can always kill game." And then he told the hunter that when he went back to camp, he must hang up the medicine on a tree outside because it was very strong and dangerous. He told him also that when he went into the cabin, he would find his brother lying inside, nearly dead, on account of the presence of the Uktena's scale. But he must take a small piece of cane, which the red man gave him, and scrape a little bit of it into water and give it to his brother to drink, and he would be well again. Then the red man was gone, and the hunter could not see where he went. He returned to camp alone and found his brother very sick, but soon cured him with the medicine from the cane. And that day and the next and every day after, he found game whenever he went for it, which is a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, right?
I would kill to have that thing. I would kill a giant snake for that thing. Oh, yeah. Dude, as far as sweet gifts go, I mean, this guy, like, shot one arrow. He probably could have escaped, but, like, he just kind of, and then he gets to eat whatever wild game he wants for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I imagine that every time you go out, you're like anytime you need me, you're like, hey, I'm going to head out to the backyard real quick, bring your bow and arrow, and then all of a sudden there's someone, like a freaking deer there, you know?
I'm also hoping that he's not a weirdo, because he could be like, every day for every meal, I want to eat skinks. And the whole tribe's like, please, no more skinks.
Man, it could be any game.
Like, please, a deer, a squirrel, something. We're having skinks again.
Yeah. It turns out he really liked killing the snake, so he just keeps coming back with snakes.
Maybe. Yeah. I wish I could have one of those.
I like that his brother, right, who I presume had nothing to do with the matter, he was probably just, tracking or whatever, like a few trees over. He got some sort of proximity sickness, but the medicine man and then the hunter himself, they're both straight chilling. They're fine.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but remember in the first story, like kind of the general idea of the Uktena, it said that like even seeing it when you were asleep would be like a danger to your family. Not to you, but to your family.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I don't necessarily know what's going on there. I don't know if the scale counts or whatever, because it said upon the presence.
I mean, he saw it before he killed it, so I mean that counts, right?
True. All right. Next little snake story here. This is the hunter and the Uksuhi. A man living down in Georgia came to visit some relatives at Hickory Log. He was a great hunter, and after resting in a house a day or two, got ready to go into the mountains. His friends warned him not to go to the north, as in that direction, near a certain large uprooted tree, there lived a dangerous monster, the Uksuhi snake, which is basically the same thing, but one of those lesser versions without like the poison blood and all that jazz.
Lowercase u, yeah.
Yeah, I think. It kept constant watch, and whenever it could spring upon any unwary hunter, it would coil about him and crush out his life in its folds, then drag the dead body down the mountainside into a deep hole in Hiawassee.
Wow, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of there being just like a hole, like he's like, this is where I keep my nice bodies.
he has some nice female giant snake over, and he's like, you want to see my deep hole in Hiawassee where I keep my bodies?
And then she's like, well, the other giant snake had more bodies, so.
She's got a little bow over her crystal. That's how you can tell she's a girl snake. Yeah. He listened quietly to the warning, but all they said only made him the more anxious to see such a monster. So, without saying anything of his intention, he left the settlement and took his way directly up the mountain to the north. Nice. Soon he came to a fallen tree and climbed up upon the trunk, and there, sure enough, on the other side, was the great Uksuhi stretched out in the grass, with its head raised, but looking the other way. It was so large, as this guy was describing this story, he was making a circle of diameter with his hands.
About a foot in diameter.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, circle about a foot in diameter. That's decent sized snake, but nothing like a tree trunk, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
these are kind of lesser ones.
Still terrifying though.
Yeah, still not great.
Yeah.
The frightened hunter got down again at once and started to run, but the snake had heard the noise and turned quickly and was after him. Up the ridge the hunter ran, the snake close behind him, then down on the other side toward the river. With all his running, the Uksuhi gained rapidly, and just as he reached the low ground, it caught up with him and wrapped around him, pinning one arm down by his side, but leaving the other free. I forgot what this story was, and I just now remembered, and I'm hype. Here we go.
Okay.
Now it gave him a terrible squeeze that almost broke his ribs, and then began to drag him along towards the water. With his free hand, the hunter clutched at the bushes as they passed, but the snake turned its head and blew its sickening breath into his face until he had to let go of his hold. Again and again this happened, and all the time they were getting nearer to a deep hole in the river, when almost at the last moment, a lucky thought came into the hunter's mind.
I like that multiple times. He's like grabs grass, and then the snake's like,
Yeah.
and then he's like, oh gosh,
He's like,
that smells bad.
gross.
And then he lets go, and he's like, I'll try it again. And he grabs the grass again. The snake does it all over again. That's hilarious.
All right. A lucky thought came into the hunter's mind. He was sweating all over from his hard run across the mountain, and suddenly remembered to have heard that snakes cannot bear the smell of perspiration.
What?
Where did he hear that? Putting his free hand into his bosom, he worked it around under his armpit until it was covered with perspiration.
Oh my god.
Then, withdrawing it, he grasped at a bush until the snake turned its head, where he quickly slapped his sweaty hand on its nose. The Uksuhi gave one gasp, almost as if it had been wounded, loosened its coils, and glided swiftly away through the bushes, leaving the hunter, bruised but not disabled, to make his way home to Hickory Log.
Oh my god, that's amazing. I like that. Just there's like a little slap with the sweaty hand, and then he's like, "Oh god, it's so gross." And like slithers away.
This guy's been terrified, and then in this death struggle with this snake that's about to drag him, like while he's asphyxiating him, he's about to drown him too, and he's like, "Oh yeah, don't snakes hate sweat?" And then this guy goes,
"Here I am,
he
a sweaty person,
starts digging in,
hate sweat."
Grabs the bushes. The thing turns around. He goes, "Wham!" And it goes, and just gives up. He made this monster snake just give up.
But I love the idea of like, oh, that's right. Snakes hate perspiration.
Obviously, classic.
Who found that out? Was somebody sweaty and like a snake bit them, and then like you kind of see their nose wiggle a little bit, and they're like, and just get off of them, unlatch.
Man, when I was first reading that, I was like, "Oh, this one's cool. What's this guy about to do? What's he about to do?" And then I started reading the sweat part, and then it said putting his free hand into his bosom. I was like, "Oh no, this guy's just gonna rub his sweat on it." It's like, that's all this guy's gonna do.
Well, that's funny part too. Is like I thought he was just gonna like get the sweat on his hand and then rub it on the snake or something like that. But it's even better that he like then does his old trick of grabbing the grass. The snake's like, huh? And it gets nice in the face.
He slaps it in the face with his sweaty hand. This guy's sweat literally saved his life. I don't think he gets title of Chad King, but I guess that's smart thinking. He got really lucky that snakes did in fact hate sweat. So
that, and also he's really lucky he was a sweaty boy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
maybe my sweat will save a life one day.
Yeah,
probably not. But if there's any snakes around, yeah,
a boy can dream. Parker, try that out next time you're like going through the backwoods of Louisiana. You happen across a snake. See if that works as like a repellent.
Yeah, I actually had a feeling today. You ever get like those intense feelings where you're like, oh no, this is going to happen. I had like a really weird feeling today where I was like, today's the day I get bitten by a rattlesnake. Yep,
What?
it's gonna happen today. And I was spraying some weeds and stuff, and I was like way off in the woods. And I'm looking around at the habitat, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty primo for almost
For a
every
rattlesnake.
venomous snake we have here, which is quite a lot. But yeah, I was convinced I was going to get struck today. But hey, oh, still here. And
Do you have snake bits?
and we're filming the venomous giant snake video today.
Well, how about that? Yeah.
Which I wasn't even thinking about that at the time, but yeah, that would have been timely, and I probably wouldn't have not wanted to talk about this because I would have been in the hospital.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, everybody, live from the hospital. Here we are.
All right, this next one, this is funny. This one's called The Snake Boy.
Nice.
There was a boy who used to go bird hunting every day, and all the birds he brought home he gave to his grandmother, who was very fond of him. This made the rest of the family jealous, and they treated him in such a fashion that at last one day he told his grandmother that he was to leave them all, but that she must not grieve for him. Next morning he refused to eat any breakfast, went off hungry into the woods, and was gone all day. In the evening he returned, bringing with him a pair of deer horns, and went directly into the hothouse, or asai, where his grandmother was waiting for him. He told the old woman that he must be alone that night, so she got up and went to the house where the others were. I like this typical teen energy. He's having some emo, sad boy hours.
Yeah.
It's like, Grandma, leave me alone in the hothouse.
Grandma, I'm in my fields. Get out of the hothouse.
Yeah. I'm having my teenage hormones. People are mad at me for getting you stuff, so I need to go sit in the hothouse and have emo time.
Crawl,
Nice. It only took one in-between episode to circle back to Linkin Park.
Yeah, right.
Emo cryptids.
Yeah.
New podcast name. Early at daybreak, she came again to the hothouse and looked in, and there she saw an immense Uktena that filled the asai, with horns on its head, but still with 2 human legs instead of a snake tail. It was all that was left of her boy. He spoke to her and told her to leave him, and she went away again from the door.
He's still at it. It is him.
Yup. Even when you're turned into a snake, you can still be an emo.
Get out of my room, Grandpa. Crawling.
When the sun was well up, the Uktena began to slowly crawl out, and it was full... This weirds me out. 'Cause it says
crawling out of his skin?
No, because it says full noon instead of full moon.
Huh.
It just kind of flubbed me up there.
Yeah,
When the sun was well up, the Uktena began to slowly crawl out, but it was full noon before it was all out of the asai. It made a terrible hissing noise as it came out, and all the people ran from it. It crawled on through the settlement, leaving a broad trail in the ground behind it, until it came to a deep bend in the river, where it plunged in and went under the water. The grandma grieved much for her boy, until the others of the family got angry and told her that as she thought so much of him, she ought to go and stay with him. Which is a mean way to treat your grandmother. Like, oh, you love that kid so much that sadly turned into a snake and ran off into the river. Why don't you go live in the river with him, Grandma? So she left him and went along the trail made by the Uktena to the river and walked directly into the water and disappeared. Then
your grandma was just gone after that?
Yep. They said, why don't you just go live with her, Grandma? And she said, all right. And she followed the Uktena path, walked in the water, and disappeared. Once after that, a man was fishing near the place and saw her sitting on a large rock in the river, looking just as she had always looked. But as soon as she caught sight of him, she jumped into the water and was gone.
Oh, well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Also, kind of ridiculous. So, okay, I guess I don't understand. He became this snake boy because his family was upset at him for being too nice to his grandma. And so it's like, my family's too nice, too upset at me for being nice to my grandma. Therefore, I'm going to be mean to my grandma, kick her out, become a snake, and leave. Did he choose? I don't know. I'm asking too many questions.
Yeah, this one kind of goes against a lot of the other ones where it doesn't say why he became an Uktena. He
Yeah.
just he like went off in the woods, came back, and was kind of like a different guy, and then started to transform, which is interesting again because the lesser Uktena were just like always like that, like they're just created like that.
Yeah.
But only the original one was transformed, except this kid. So kind of has some layers to it.
I also like the like him being like mid transformation. He's like, "Get out of my room, Grandma! I'm still transforming into a snake." God.
True. But yeah, I think this one's that's interesting. I didn't really catch that whenever I first read it. I just thought it was funny that his emo hours and everything like that. But
Yeah.
that is really weird that he just came back and was kind of transforming into one
Hmm.
for almost next to no reason. I mean, were the little people out there and just were like, "Hey, let's have some fun today. Let's turn little."
I am so curious about these little people, but I guess that's gonna be a different episode entirely.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess these little people were like, "Oh, little Jimmy Redcorn. Yeah, let's turn him into a snake today. Why
Yeah.
not? All right, Jimmy, go to your hothouse and you're gonna slowly transform, and you're fixing to want some deep river bend water." That's
Yeah, that's interesting. I figured he was gonna kill his family or like do something to his family afterwards,
well,
but no, he's just like, all right, now that I'm a snake, I'm heading back out.
yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna go find a deep hole in the river. See y'all
I'm gonna go get
later."
in the water.
Yeah, that one's
That's
weird.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, if I was getting told that one and like if I was like a kid in the tribe and I was getting told that one would kind of scare me where they don't say why he became one. And he
Yeah.
seemed like a nice kid. Like it was just his family being jealous that he was nice to his grandmother. So
Yeah. So
uh,
moral of the story, kids, don't be don't be nice to your grandparents.
yeah, treat him like garbage and he won't become a giant snake monster. And
Exactly.
your grandmother won't become some weird water spirit, I guess.
Water spirit? Do you think she became a spirit? Or do you think she just went in there and just kind of like uh, died?
But she's seen again.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she dove down and disappeared. So I assume if people were watching and they claim that she disappeared, she's probably down there for a while, but then she's seen again. So that one's kind of weird. It's got some layers to it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
That's interesting.
Next one, we had the snake boy. Now we're gonna have the snake man.
Oh shoot!
He's
It
grown
keeps
up.
going.
No, this is a different guy. All right, the snake man. Two hunters, both for some reason under taboo against the meat of a squirrel or turkey, had gone into the woods together. When evening came, they found a good camping place and lighted a fire to prepare their supper. One of them had killed several squirrels during the day and now got ready to broil them over the fire. His companion warned him that if he broke the taboo and ate squirrel meat, he would become a snake, but the other laughed and said it was only a conjurer's story. He went on with his preparation, and when the squirrels were roasted, he made his supper of them and then laid down beside the fire to sleep. What's going to happen here?
Yeah. Right. Well, I can guess actually. I think he's gonna turn into a snake.
Maybe. Late
Okay.
that night, his companion was aroused by groaning. Weird.
Yeah.
That's a different context these days. Later that night, his companion
Well,
was
it's better than moaning.
yeah. Later that night, his companion was awakened by groaning, and on looking around, he found the other laying on the ground, rolling and twisting in agony, with the lower part of his body already changed into the body and tail of a large water snake. The man was still able to speak and called loudly for help, but his companion could do nothing, only sit by and try and comfort him while he watched the arms sink into the body and the skin take on
What?
a scaly change that mounted
What?
gradually towards the neck until at last even the head was a serpent's head, and the great snake crawled away from the fire and down the bank into the river.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's your American Werewolf in London kind of.
Yeah, exactly. That was
Uktena.
exactly what I was thinking. It was like a werewolf transformation scene, but a snake.
Yeah, this one.
A were-snake.
This one, it's definitely weird, but it's less weird in my mind because it seems like one of those like kind of classic scare the kids, don't break a taboo kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, kids, if there's a taboo, don't do it because then you'll turn to a snake. Like this guy, he had a taboo against squirrel meat, but he did it.
And then he slowly turned into a snake.
Yeah.
Slowly and graphically turned into a snake.
His buddy watched his arms sink into his body as he's crying for help. And
oh my God, that's crazy.
yeah, that's a little brutal.
Also, all these snakes keep going back to rivers.
Well, I mean, it's like North Carolina, Georgia, East Tennessee. There's a lot of rivers.
This is true.
Yeah, there's a ton of waterways out there.
Well, what I'm getting at is I don't want to go back into a river now. There's all the freaking bad snakes are in rivers.
Yeah, I'm like, in my time being around the Smokies and stuff, I'm like, have I been somewhere where some Cherokee guy was like, yep, that's where the Uktena lives, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Or they have,
You probably have.
Maybe I've been by the frog place and I didn't even know.
Oh, God dang it.
Dang, man.
You didn't have your gig?
Yeah, I don't need no gig. Fastest,
oh, yeah, you just go freehand it?
Fastest hands in the West.
Nice.
But, yeah, or I'm like, maybe I was where the Uktena stays, or even freakier, where the bad things are, or where the strange things are.
Is that one of the things? Is that what it's called?
That's what they said about like where it ran off to. They said where the Uktena stays, or where the other strange things are.
Oh, I do remember you saying where the strange. Yeah.
Yeah, which that's. I don't know how I feel about that. That's pretty freaky.
Yeah, right? That makes me... Oh, that'd be cool if we can do another episode on what some of those other strange things are.
We're probably going to.
Nice.
I would not be surprised. All right. Well, that is most of the giant horned serpent legends that I came across. There's a lot more folklore surrounding snakes that I found in Mooney's book in general, but that'll just about do it for today. Zach, how'd you feel about these stories?
Those are some fun ones. It's our first time doing like a straight up folklore, because the other ones we did so far, episode 1 and 2, are both more of like cryptid / urban legend type things.
Yeah.
But to do one that's just pure like folklore, it was fun. There's some fun stories.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with it because it's still like a monster kind of cryptid thing.
Yeah,
and you kind of get the added craziness of all these really old legends.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a Greek mythology type story, but based in Native American culture.
Yeah, when I was
especially that snake winding its way up to the sun. That's my mind keeps going back to that. That's really like they're like, oh, this frickin' jerk off couldn't get the job done. This giant snake. Send a regular old timber rattlesnake or whatever it is.
Just this timber rattlesnake, just playing some awesome music as he's flying. Timber snake to ground control. This is rattlesnake to ground control, or Major Tom, whatever. I'm heading towards the sun. Cause he's sickened our people, and he's lame.
This is ground control to Major Snake. We wish you on your way.
Oh, man.
That's so funny.
All right. These legends...
I'm sorry, I just love that. The little image of this determined little snake, a single tear going down.
I mean... What would be even better is like a hyper-realistic version where like he finds the tallest tree and he climbs it and he looks up and he still has that far to go and he's like, no. He's like, why did they pick me?
Yeah.
Why me? Why not one of the?
The snake really wants to do it. He just doesn't know how.
If they're gonna pick an animal to go out and kill the sun because they're mad at it, why not a bird?
Oh God, I'm crying.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not one of these? All the birds in the woods like the last guy had. You know.
Yeah, they can apparently eat a giant snake in like a matter of hours, and you know, they can fly. Send a bird into the sky.
Do you think it was like a duo? Like a bird was carrying this rattlesnake. It was like, "Come on, buddy, we're going to the sun."
That'd be pretty great. Well, before we go, these stories were so fun. I wanted to share this one random story that I came across in Mooney's book, just because it cracks me up. And I think I shared this one with Zach already, but
I remember this.
I've got to. This is called "The Rabbit Dines the Bear." The bear invited the rabbit to dine with him. They had beans in the pot, but there was no grease for them. So the bear cut a slit in his side and let the oil run out so that they had enough to cook for dinner.
Pretty badass.
Yeah, what a guy. The rabbit looked surprised and thought to himself, "That's a handy way. I think I'll try that." When he started home, he invited the bear to come and take dinner with him 4 days later. When the bear came to the rabbit and said, "I have beans for dinner too. Now I'll get the grease for them." So he took a knife and drove it into his side. But instead of oil, a stream of blood gushed out and he fell over nearly dead.
Oh my God.
The bear picked him up and had hard work to tie up the wound and stop the bleeding. Then he scolded to him, "You little fool, I'm large and strong and lined with fat all over. The knife don't hurt me, but you're small and lean. You can't do such things."
Oh my God. I love this little bunny committing seppuku.
Yeah. He's like, "Man, I'm really happy that you came over for dinner. I forgot to go to the grocery store. Forgot the grease. 1 second." He's like, "Oh my God, there's no oil coming out. There's no grease."
Oh my God.
"Bear, help me, bear." The bear's nice enough. He gets him all bandaged up. He's like, "You idiot. You moron.
You little fool.
You little fool. You're small and lean. You can't be doing that." Anyway.
Meanwhile, this rabbit's dang near passed out from blood loss. It's like, "Can we talk about this later, bear?
I just want to have the beans. I want to be nice to invite you over."
Oh God. This poor rabbit.
Anyway. Now
that's fantastic.
Now, y'all, I learned y'all something today. You guys know at the Cherokee have a story where a rabbit almost kills itself. All right. Well, I hope y'all have.
What's the lesson from that? Don't envy others, I suppose.
I guess don't try and be like somebody else, or you might wind up almost killing yourself.
Or don't stab yourself.
Don't stab yourself and nearly die. If you run out of grease, just go to the store. All right. Well, I hope y'all had fun with these stories. If you liked them, be sure to let us know, because I'm sure I can find a whole lot more to get into from other tribes and other areas of the world. And it would be really fun because I had a great time with these. I loved researching for it. Zach, what can we expect for next week?
Next week we got one that's it's not as popular as some of the other ones we've covered so far. It's the Blackbird of Chernobyl. And now this one is similar to Mothman in that it's kind of like a what is it called? Like a harbinger type creature, but for Chernobyl specifically. And there's not a ton on it, so it might be a little bit of a shorter episode compared to the last couple. But it's a cool topic to me because it's covering the connection of a cryptid to this historical event. It's like a bird that's like with a 20-foot wingspan and whatnot, and supposed to like giant, not just like, I don't want you guys out there to think it's just like a regular old blackbird. It's like, oh, there's a blackbird over here during this whole thing. No, it's like this freaking giant bird.
It's almost like that one Mothman theory that he was
exactly yeah
thing. That's
exactly yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. The question is he a harbinger for is it a harbinger for bad things like causing it, or is he trying to warn us?
We don't know. He's a
Yeah.
blackbird. That's what we know.
That's what we know.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for it. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to check us out on pretty much any social media at Legends and Loggers. Thanks for watching and stay wild.
Yep, and live life legendary.